This one's called Hot Rod Heaven. In Louisville, Kentucky, there's a stretch of road called Mitchell Hill Road. To the locals, it's also known as Hot Rod Heaven. It's a long, curvy stretch of road with a steep cliff on the side. In the 1950s and 1970s, it was a popular spot for teenagers to test their cars out, as well as their driving skills. And this is where it's got its name. It's reported more than 25 people had lost their lives on this road, and locals believe the road is cursed. Now, the legend is that a young man and woman were on their way to school dance in September 1950. They crashed and died at the bottom of the hill there, and ever since then, there's been reports that a girl can be seen wandering the roadway, as well as the nearby cemetery where she and the young man were buried. One report was from a man that used to live near the cemetery. He said sound traveled pretty far where he used to live. He claimed that fairly often he'd hear voices down at the cemetery late at night, and it would also wake him up. At first he thought it was teenagers, so he'd take his spotlight out there and shine it down the cemetery to scare 'em off. Each time he checked, there'd never be anybody there. Eventually he stopped checking altogether because he knowed he weren't going to find anything. Another report was from a young man in the 1990s who was outboard driving around at night and decided to go down Mitchell Hill Road, and he noticed a beautiful young woman walking down the side of the road. And when he pulled over to ask if she needed a ride, she just vanished into thin air.
Kentucky's Sleepy Hollow Road. This isn't the old headless horseman tale we all know and love. There's actually a road that begins in Jefferson County and crosses over into Oldham County near Louisville, Kentucky. It's a 2-lane highway covered with a canopy of thick trees with a hill to the side of it with more than a 30-foot drop. The legend is that if you travel down Sleepy Hollow Road at night, a set of headlights will slowly appear in your rear view mirror out of nowhere. The headlights will get closer and closer. If you slow down, the vehicle never passes you. If you speed up, it keeps up with you, but it will suddenly start to pass you on the huge turns. That's when you see the car. It's a large black hearse with all blacked out windows. If you're lucky, it goes on ahead, but for most folks, it rams you off the side of the road into the ravine below. The second location on this road involves a bridge with multiple babies. The bridge is called the Crybaby Bridge. The legend goes that the women in the area would unwanted babies and toss them off the side of the bridge. The bridge is supposedly gone now, but if you said you drive down the road at night with your car windows down and your radio off, you may hear babies crying out for their mothers.
The Poplick Monster. It's said that this half-man, half-goat or sheep lives beneath the Norfolk Southern Railroad trestle called Poplick Train Trestle. That's where the creature gets its name. It's said to look like a large humanoid creature with furry legs like goats. A pure white skin tone with greasy fur, white eyes and horns. It's said that the creature had been reported in the area since the 1800s. And some think that it escaped from a circus freak show to a nearby forest and now seeks revenge for its mistreatment. Others say it's actually a Native American skinwalker. Another version of the legend says that it was a farmer who become this creature after sacrificing goats in exchange for satanic powers. It's said that the creature uses a voice mimicry ability to lure folks up into the trestle to meet their end to an oncoming train. It's also said to jump down from the trestle onto people or parked cars, passing under attacked victims with a blood-covered axe. Folks say the sight of it is so unsettling that people would jump off the trestle when seeing it while walking across. A few sightings included in 1976 a group of teenagers who claimed to have seen a hairy creature with horns running along the tracks by the trestle. In 1981, a couple claimed to have heard strange goat-like sounds coming from under the bridge, and quickly decided to book it out of there. In 1994, a man claimed to see a large figure up on top of the trestle with glowing eyes while he was fishing nearby.
The ghostly police officer of Narrows Road, Kentucky. Narrows Road lives up to its name. It's a very long and windy road that weaves in and out of forests as well as a few subdivisions. It's also the home to its very own ghost story. According to legend, a police officer was working a routine traffic stop on the road sometime in the 1950s when he was struck by another driver. Sadly, he didn't make it, but that isn't the end of this story. Ever since then, there's been stories of a 1950s-style police car pulling folks over late at night on this road. As the story goes, the officer gets out and walks up to your vehicle, and when you roll down the window, he just disappears. It still happens to this very day. In June of 2023, a young man reported that he was driving on the road around 11 p.m. one night when he saw the lights of a police car in his rearview mirror. Confused as to what he had done, he pulled over anyway and noticed the police car looked very old. A figure got out of the car and walked up to his driver's side door, and when he rolled down the window, he said the figure just vanished. He looked back, and the police car was completely gone. He also mentions he wouldn't recommend anyone drive down that road at night, that it was one of the most heart-stopping experiences he's ever had to this day. The Kelly-Hopkinsville Goblins. On the evening of August 21st, 1955, Elmer Sutton and John Sutton had some guests over for dinner at their farmhouse located in between Kelly and Hopkinsville, Kentucky. There were about 8 adults and 3 kids in the house that night. With conversations going, no one noticed Billy Taylor get up and go out to fetch more drinking water. When he was out there, he noticed a flying saucer streak across the sky. And then something strange happened. It landed about a mile away. Excited by this, Billy ran into the house and told his friends and family, but he was met with only laughter and ridicule. The folks shrugged off the story and returned to what they were doing, playing cards, and just paid him no mind. That was till about an hour later when the Sutton's dog began to bark his head off. This was a little bit more than a deer or some kind of animal it would react to, so some of the men went out to investigate. When they did, the dog followed them out and ran right past them. When they walked over to where the dog was, they noticed something strange. There were creatures out there, and they were unable to identify them. So they ran back into the house and quickly armed themselves. As they stepped back out again, they noticed one of the creatures had come out of the forest. It was almost human-like. It was about 2 to 3 feet tall, gray or metallic skin, had thin, long, dragging limbs, pointed ears, glowing yellow eyes, and had a glazed look on its face. Without thinking, one of the men shot the creature with a shotgun at point-blank range. When it hit the creature, it made a metallic ping sound. The creature then fell over to the ground, but it got right back up fairly quickly. After a few minutes of trying to stop these creatures with their guns and no luck, the 2 men retreated back into the house. Then, over the course of the next hour, the The creatures would appear, then disappear at the windows, scratching at them and peeking in. Eventually, someone fired off another shot, and Billy Ray went out to investigate. When he did, a creature came off the porch overhang and grabbed him by the head. But then his wife saved him by yanking him back into the house, and the creature fell off. The group held the creatures at bay with gunfire till sun came. They then went into town to the police station and reported their story. Since the adults were all sober, trustworthy people, the police went out to investigate. When they did, they found all kinds of bullet holes in the trees nearby, but they found something strange. It was a patch of soil that was glowing, and they couldn't explain it. Could this have been from the creatures?
Man, Jimmy, I don't know about you, but them some mighty good stories right there. And golly, just some that'll just stand the hair up on the back of your neck. I mean, can you just imagine? Like, right, the first one, just being you're just out riding the road, and all of a sudden you see, a woman walking down the road, or hear strange sounds in the cemetery. Man, I can't even imagine that one. And a Sleepy Hollow Road one. Good Lord. Whew. Man, oh man. I know me and my fear. I hear or see something like that, I wouldn't ever go near a bridge that even resembled it for the rest of my life, that's for sure.
I agree with Jared. These were some really good ones. I spent a lot of time digging into most of these, like the Narrows Road, the Sleepy Hollow Road, and Hot Rod Heaven. I had never even heard of until I started digging pretty deep into some Kentucky urban legends. Those were some good ones and creepy. The Goblins and the Poplick Monster, I had heard of those before, and I'd always wanted to feature them on here. I'll probably feature them again when we do Kentucky cryptids, but we wanted to try and do some urban legends to, kind of change things up a bit, and we hope y'all like them.
Well, folks, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share out, tell your friends, tell your family, tell all the other cryptids, the other monsters, the ghosts, the hangs, tell everybody. We want you to tell everybody. But also, remember folks, stay spooky.